fabulous episode of How Many Tabs Are Open on Mr. Johnson's Computer? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 9 tabs. So if you've already watched the first video, thank you. If you have not watched the first video, please go back and do the discussion first. It'll help you with some of the concepts that we're working on in this video. So all right, let's go ahead and get started. So we're looking at perimeter and area, and it's saying click and drag the boxes below to the correct side, perimeter, area. So this is kind of logic questions. Are we talking about perimeter or area? Okay, so remember, perimeter is the length around. So if you look at the little box in the corner, the perimeter would be like the border, how long the border is, and then the area would just be like all of this, all the space inside. All right. So we're going to look for words like, for instance, border, around, edges, things like that. That'll be talking about perimeter. All right. So let's go ahead and start. The outside of the picture frame, not the actual picture, the outside of a picture frame, that's going to be a perimeter because that's the outside of the frame, not the inside. All right. The picture in the frame, that's going to be the area, right? So the framing itself is the perimeter. The picture inside the frame is the area. All right. A fence around a garden. Around means perimeter. It's the fence around the garden, not the space inside the garden. All right. So a garden. So the garden itself, where you plant everything, that would be area, right? Because a garden, that's where all the dirt is. The dirt is not on the fence part. The dirt is on the surface part. All right. So the fence around the garden is perimeter. The inside of the garden is the area. All right. The edges of a baking dish. Edges, perimeter. Right. The edges of the baking dish. So once again, when I'm talking about the edges, the border, the all that kind of stuff, we're talking about perimeter. The bottom of the baking dish where the cake sits, that's the area. You'd be really sad if you had to eat the perimeter of cake. You'd get really happy if you get to eat the area of the cake. All right, so remember, once again, perimeter is just the edges, and then area is the whole middle part. Okay, and then we have border of a wall and surface of a wall. Border means like the edges. So once again, when I'm talking about edges, when I'm talking about around, so the outside, around, edges, border, these are all perimeter. The surface of a wall, right? The surface is the whole thing, not just the edges. The surface is all of the wall. So the surface would be what I'm talking about, area. All right? So the outside of a picture frame is the rim or the perimeter. The picture inside the frame, that's the area. The fence around the garden, it's the rim, the perimeter. The garden itself is the space inside. That's the area. The edges of a baking dish, the rim of a baking dish, perimeter. The bottom of the baking dish where the cake sits, that's the area where the cake sits, right? That's all the space of cake. That's the area. The border of a wall, the border of a wall, perimeter, border. And the surface of a wall is everything else, the whole space that it's taking up. All right, so perimeter is around the edges and area is all the stuff inside. Okay, page one done. Page two. Okay, so they're going to give us a picture and then they're going to ask for the perimeter and area. So what we need to do, let's go ahead and get out our handy dandy uh, reference guide. All right, so here's the first thing I'm going to, well, that's not the fifth grade one. I can tell that's not the fifth grade one. Okay, here's the fifth grade one. We're going to go ahead and open image in new tab. Okay, so Control plus. That is blurry. I'll try and find a better version of this for y'all. All right, so when we are looking at perimeter and area, first of all, we need to determine what kind of shape this is. What kind of shape is this? And if you look at these little lines, that says that all four sides are congruent. So if all four sides are congruent, this is a square. All right. So with a square, let's go to our handy dandy cheat sheet. Oops, it's over here. Handy dandy cheat sheet. So I'm going to look. Perimeter of a square is 4 times the side length. All right. Area of a square is area equals side length times side length. So I'm going to go ahead and write these. So perimeter of a square is equal to 4 times the side lengths. Area of a square is equal to side times side. All right. The what we're actually looking at is a square that has 4 congruent sides. That's why there's 4 dashes. And then it says that this side is 4 3/10 inches. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug 4 3/10 inches in for S because all 4 of these are S. They're sides. All right. And since this is a square, S is the same for all 4. So to find perimeter, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 4 S's. All right, so we're going to put 4 3/10 over here. Remember, this is the same exact thing that you did in 4th grade, except for in 4th grade, you probably just added the sides. So you probably did side plus side plus side plus side. 4 3/10 4 times is the same thing as adding 4 3/10 4 times, right? So you can still do it the other way, but just remember that with multiplication, it should make it a little bit easier, but you can still add 4 3/10 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16, 17. So we have one decimal place in our problem, so we need one decimal place in our solution. So P is equal to 17 2/10 inches. All right, so my perimeter is 17 2/10 inches because I have 4 sides of 4 3/10 inches. And if we added together all 4 sides of 4 3/10 inches, once again, we still get 17 2/10 inches. All right. So this is your 5th grade square perimeter formula. P perimeter is equal to 4 times S, the side lengths. All right. The one we're looking at over here, area equals side length times side length. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to multiply one side length times the other side length to find out the inside. All right. This was easier to do with your discussion post because of the fact that we didn't have decimals. With this one, we're going to want to use the multiplication instead of just trying to break it up because it's hard to break this into 4 3/10 pieces. All right, so what we're doing is we're just taking the side length of 4 3/10 and we're multiplying it times itself. Area equals side length times side length, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 4 3/10 times itself. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is 12. Second line, ones place, 0. 4 times 3 is 12, carry the 1. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17. I'm going to add all this stuff together. And then because it's multiplication, remember you got to count how many decimal places you have. We have 1 on the top number, 1 on the bottom number, so we got to move over 2 decimal places. So our area is 18 49 inches. Oops, square inches. Sorry, don't forget about that. So when we're talking about perimeter, it's just going to be regular inches. When we're talking about area, it's square inches because remember, it's not just an inch like the measurement inch, it's an inch by an inch. So it's a square inch. All right, that's why it's the inside, is because we can separate this into grid marks or square inches. All right, so there are 18 49 hundredths of these squares inside this space. Okay, so when we come back over here, we did side plus side plus side plus side, or we did 4 3/10 times 4, and that got us 17 2/10 inches. All right, and be specific on units. That is part of geometry, so we do have to say inches. And on area, remember we have to say square inches. So we had 18 49 hundredths square. Oops, SQIN. All right. So if it doesn't fit and you don't like the fact that it doesn't fit, you can shrink it down. That's what I'm gonna do. There we go. So 18 49 hundredths square inches. So remember, the inside has an area of 18 49 hundredths square inches, and the outside altogether has an a measurement or a perimeter of 17 and 2/10 inches. All right, moving on. Okay, next one. We have a rectangle. So we can tell once again, two lines show that these two sides are the same. One line shows that those two sides are the same. So let's go ahead and first off, let's get to our handy dandy cheat sheet. I know it's blurry. I'm sorry. I'm going to find a better version of this at some point. All right. So perimeter of a rectangle is perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. So I'm going to first off, we're dealing with rectangles. So my formula for perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And my formula for area equals, once again, length times width. They gave us a rectangle to look at. They're saying that these sides are the same and these sides are the same. And then they're saying that this side is 8 and 27/100 inches. And they're saying that this side is 3 and 5/10 inches. All right. If it helps you to visualize, go ahead and write the opposite sides just so you can see them all. Right. So perimeter is equal to, so 8 and 27/100 inches is our length, 3 and 5/10 inches is our width. So what we're going to say is 2 times 8 and 27/100 plus 2 times 3 and 5/10. And that should tell us our perimeter. And the reason why we're multiplying, remember, because there's two sides that are 8 and 27/100, there's two sides that are 3 and 5/10, and we're just adding all of this together. So basically that just saves us a little work. All right, so let's over to the side. I'm going to find out what 8 and 27/100 times 2 is. I have 2 decimal places, so I need 2 decimal places. So 16 and 54/100, perimeter equals 16 and 54/100. And then let's also find out what 3 and 5/10 times 2 is. This one could almost be mental math if you feel like it. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7, 1 decimal place. And the reason I said that is if you just added 35 in your head twice, you'd get 70. And just remember to place that decimal point, right? So we have 16 and 54/100 plus 7 and 0/10. So let's go ahead and finish this out. And let's go ahead and add 16 and 54/100. Remember, line up your decimal place, line up your decimal points and your place values. Add an emoji 0 if you need to. And then we drop the decimal point like it's hot. So our perimeter for this rectangle was 23 and 54/100 inches. All right, that's how much we have around, we have on the rim, we have on the edges. All right. And then for this one, area equals length times width. I'm going to take area is what I don't know. And what I'm going to do is plug in the length, 8 and 27/100 times the width, 3 and 5/10. So to find the space on the inside, I'm going to need to multiply 8 and 27/100 times 3 and 5/10. So let me do that to the side. Remember, when you're multiplying, you don't need to line up the decimal points. Just make sure the number with the most digits is on top. 5 times 7, 35. 5 times 2 is 10, 11, 12, 13. 5 times 8 is 40 plus 1. All right, second line, ones place, 0. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2, 7, 8. 3 times 8 is 24. Whoa, this is getting big. This is getting real big. So let's add this all together. All right, I have 2 decimal places, so I'm going to move my decimal point over 2. That is area equals 289 and 45/100 square inches. That's a big one. So that gives you a lot of practice with your multiplying decimals. This whole exercise is giving us practice in multiplying decimals. If you're having trouble with it, feel free. We can review it anytime you want. Just come see me. So let's go ahead and fill in our answers. Perimeter for this guy was 23 and 54 hundredths inches. And we can shrink that down till it fits. Or we can just stretch it out, actually. That's probably going to be easier. Boop. There we go. And then our area was 289 and 45 hundredths square inches. Remember, it's square because it's the area. So we're talking about talking about square spaces, right? We're not just talking about like a line. A line, that's length, right? But that line squared is area. Okay. Okay. So we've made it through. And then we have one more. This one, you have not learned how to do this. There will not be a formula for it, but I think you can do it. All right. So what we have here, we have 1 1/5 inches, and then we need to find the perimeter. We don't have a formula, but we do know this is a pentagon because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. We also know that all 5 sides are the same length because it has one dash on each side. So really what we're looking at here is a couple different things we can do. We can do 1 1/5 times 5. We can do 1 1/5 plus 1 1/5 plus 1 1/5 plus 1 1/5 plus 1 1/5. All right. So remember, it's a pentagon, so there's 5 sides. So we can either do it times 5, or we can add it 5 times. Some of y'all might already be thinking, can I turn this into decimals? All right. So let's think about it. If 1/5 was an equivalent fraction, it'd be 2/10, right? So really, what we're looking at is the same thing. 1 2/10 times 5, or 1 2/10 plus 1 2/10 plus 1 2/10 plus 1 2/10 plus 1 2/10. And you're like, how is 1/5 the same thing as 2/10? Remember, so if you had 1/5, right? And if we just sliced it all in half, now you have 2/10. It's the same thing, right? So 1/5 and 2/10 are the same thing. Just remember, 2/10, the fraction, is 2/10 the decimal. It sounds the same when you say it. 2/10, 2/10, 2/10, 2/10. So either way you want to do this, we can get to the answer. I know that 1/5 5 times is 1 whole. Because if we took this and we added another 1/5, another 1/5, another 1/5, and another 1/5, that'd be 1 whole. So I could just add all the ones together, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the extra 1/5, and then that would be 5 plus 1. So 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 is 1, right? Because that would equal 5/5. 5/5 is equal to 1. So we could get 6 that way. If we did 1 2/10 times 5, remember you can do the multiplication if you want to. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 1 is 6. 1 decimal place, 1 decimal place. Boom. We have the same. That's 6. That's 6. If we add 1 2/10, 5 times 2/10, 5 times is 1. So that would be 5 plus 1 once again, which gives us 6. Perhaps the most complicated one will probably be if we did it straight from the mixed number times 5. Because what we have to do is we have to turn this into a improper fraction. So 1 times 5 is 5 plus 1. So we'll have 6/5 times 5. Remember to turn your whole number into a fraction by making a 1 as the denominator. Then it's top times top, bottom times bottom. 30 divided by 5 equals 6. So we just got our answer like 4 different ways. However you decided to do it, right? We had a pentagon, and each side of the pentagon was 1 1/5 inches. 1 1/5 is also the same thing as 1 2/10. So 1 1/5 5 times was 6, whether we added it, whether we multiplied it, and 1 2/10 times 5 was 6, whether we multiplied it or whether we added it. So our perimeter, not only 6, Oh no, they didn't give us a text box. Let's make our own text box. Not only 6, but 6 inches. All right. And I don't know why they didn't give you a text box. You'll have to make your own. So, hooray. You've made it to the end. All right. So, our perimeter on this one is 6 inches because we had 5 sides of 1 and 1/5 inches. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 5. 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 is 5/5, which is 1. So 5 plus 1 is 6. All right, you made it. So 4 pages, 2 of them you used your formulas. Remember, your formulas for rectangle and square are slightly different. All right, so remember, for your perimeter for a square, it was perimeter is equal to 4 times the side lengths. Remember, for area, it was area is equal to side times side. Over here for rectangle, perimeter is P is equal to 2 side lengths plus 2 widths, side widths. All right, and then the formula for finding the area of a rectangle is, oops, A, area equals length times width. So there you go. That's everything that you need. And remember, your Star Cheat Sheet has all of those formulas waiting for you. All right? Alrighty. Well, I hope that you have a wonderful day. Talk to your teachers if you have any questions. We're here for you. Like and subscribe if you feel like it. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.